discover how a ridiculed American fighter, dismissed as clunky by Japan's elite pilots, dominated the Pacific skies, turning the legendary Zero into a relic of defeat and altering the course of World War II. Watch till the end. In the sweltering operations tent at Rabaul Airfield, New Britain, on September 1, 1943, Lieutenant Commander Saburo Sakai, a battle-hardened Japanese ace, chuckled as he read an intelligence report. His one good eye, the other lost to American gunners, scanned details of a new U.S. fighter, the F6F Hellcat. Heavy as a bomber, wide as a transport, it weighed twice as much as Japan's sleek S6M Zero. To Sakai and his fellow pilots, it was a laughable American blunder, a lumbering beast destined to be outmaneuvered by their agile Zeros. Outside, the elegant lines of their aircraft gleamed on the steel-plank runway, symbols of 2 years of unchallenged dominance over Pacific skies. British Hurricanes, American P-40s, and Dutch Brewster Buffaloes had all crumbled before the Zero's guns. This Hellcat, they believed, would fare no better. But in just 30 days, their laughter would turn to dread as the Hellcat began a relentless campaign that would crush Japanese naval aviation, achieving a staggering 19-to-1 kill ratio and proving that the Zero's reign was built on a fragile illusion. The Japanese Navy's confidence in 1943 wasn't arrogance, it was rooted in hard numbers. Since Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, their air service had racked up jaw-dropping victories: 29 aircraft lost to destroy 347 at Pearl, 7 lost for 103 in the Philippines, 2 for 30 over Darwin. The British and Dutch air forces in the Far East were annihilated in days. At the heart of this dominance was the Mitsubishi S6M Zero, a fighter that seemed to defy physics. When American engineers tested captured Zeros in 1942, they couldn't believe its performance: bomber-like range, biplane-like agility, and devastating firepower. Japan's ace of aces, Hiroyoshi Nishizawa, with 87 confirmed kills, described the Zero as an extension of the pilot's will, responding to thought itself. Its secret? A revolutionary design using extra super duralumin, a lightweight alloy, with no armor, no self-sealing fuel tanks, and often no radio, every ounce sacrificed for unmatched performance. American planes, Nishizawa sneered, were like trucks, powerful but clumsy, overbuilt and wasteful. When early reports of the F6F Hellcat reached Japanese intelligence via neutral Swedish sources in 1943, they seemed like American propaganda. At 12,186 pounds loaded, it dwarfed the Zero's 5,800 pounds. Its 334 square-foot wings and drag-heavy radial engine carried 2,400 rounds of ammunition, armor plating, bulletproof glass, and 250 gallons of self-sealing fuel tanks. Captain Minoru Genda, the tactical genius behind Pearl Harbor, dismissed it as a continuation of America's flawed philosophy, relying on heavy machinery to compensate for inferior pilot skill. The Zero's tight 612-foot turning radius, thanks to its 22-pound per square foot wing loading, made it a dogfighting marvel. The Hellcat's 36.5-pound wing loading and 900-foot turning radius suggested it would be helpless in a turning fight, the cornerstone of Japanese tactics. The numbers, Genda concluded, guaranteed another American failure. The first clash came on September 30, 1943, over Marcus Island. Petty Officer Yoshio Fukui, escorting a reconnaissance mission, spotted 6 dark blue shapes climbing from the southeast. Mistaking them for B-25 bombers at first, he was stunned when they turned, revealing the Hellcat's distinctive silhouette, a massive fuselage with stubby wings. Engaging with standard Zero tactics, Fukui dove into a tight turn, expecting to slide onto the American's tail. But the Hellcat defied expectations. Instead of turning, it rocketed upward, powered by a Pratt & Whitney or 2800 double Wasp engine pumping out 2,000 horsepower, 700 more than the Zero's Nakajima Sakai. At 15,000 feet, the Hellcat executed a hammerhead turn, dropping onto Fukui's tail. 6.50 caliber machine guns, not the expected 4, unleashed a torrent of fire, riddling his Zero with 17 hits in 3 seconds. Fukui barely escaped by spinning out of control, limping back to base. His wingman and the reconnaissance plane didn't return. The Hellcat had drawn first blood. By October 5, 1943, at Wake Island, the Hellcat's true power emerged. Lieutenant Yoshio Shiga led 12 Zeros to intercept what seemed like a routine American raid. From 20,000 feet, they held every advantage: altitude, position, surprise. But as they dove, the Hellcats didn't scatter or turn. Maintaining formation, they accelerated in a shallow dive, preserving energy. The Zero's long-range shots barely dented the Hellcats' 212 pounds of pilot armor and self-sealing tanks. When the Zeros ran low on ammunition, the Hellcats countered, climbing to 25,000 feet where their engines still delivered 1,650 horsepower against the Zero's 900. Diving like hawks, they shredded 8 Zeros without a single loss. Shiga's diary captured the shock. Their weight gave them speed we couldn't match. They'd dive, fire, and climb away before we could react. By November 1943, at Rabaul, the Japanese were learning painful lessons. Lieutenant Commander Tetsuzo Iwamoto, with 32 victories, briefed his pilots, "Forget everything you know about air combat. The Hellcats fight like executioners, not warriors." The Hellcats' energy fighting doctrine, maintaining speed and altitude for slashing attacks, neutralized the Zero's maneuverability. Working in pairs, one high, one low, Hellcat pilots used radios to coordinate with machine-like precision, while Japanese pilots fought as individual samurai. The technology gap widened further. The Hellcat's 6 Browning M2 machine guns fired 4,500 rounds per minute, each .50 caliber bullet delivering 3,500 foot-pounds of energy. The Zero's two 7.7mm guns and two 20mm cannons, with lighter, slower projectiles, couldn't compete. American radar-guided fighter direction allowed Hellcats to strike with surgical accuracy, while Japanese pilots relied on eyesight alone. Lieutenant Sadamu Kamachi described a radar-directed ambush. "They hit us in clouds, no warning, perfectly positioned. We were blind men fighting those who could see in the dark." The Japanese pilot crisis compounded the problem. Pre-war training produced elite aviators with 700 flight hours for naval pilots and 500 for Army pilots, masters of aerobatics and gunnery. By 1944, fuel shortages slashed training to 300 hours for naval pilots and 200 for Army pilots, with most practice in gliders. Gunnery was limited to 50 rounds, and critical skills like formation flying and night operations were skipped. Meanwhile, American pilots arrived with 300 hours, including 50 in Hellcats, firing thousands of practice rounds and mastering carrier landings. Lieutenant Commander Yoshihiro Hashimoto lamented, "We are sending children to fight professionals." One pilot, Ensign Yamamoto, lasted 7 minutes in his first combat, having never fired his guns in flight. The Battle of Formosa in October 1944 was a turning point. Vice Admiral Shigeru Fukudome threw 700 aircraft, including Japan's last trained pilots, into the fight. Japanese reports claimed 26 American carriers sunk and 300 aircraft destroyed. The reality, revealed by gun camera footage, was devastating: 329 Japanese aircraft lost, nearly all experienced pilots gone, against 89 American losses. Lieutenant Sadaki Akamatsu described it as systematic extermination, with Hellcats dominating every altitude, dividing the sky into lethal grids. The Great Marianas Turkey Shoot on June 19, 1944, cemented the Hellcats' dominance. Japan's 9 carriers and 450 aircraft faced Task Force 58's 15 carriers and 956 planes, including 450 Hellcats. Radar detected the Japanese at 150 miles, allowing Hellcats to intercept with perfect positioning. In 12 minutes, 42 of 69 Japanese aircraft were downed. Commander David McCampbell shot down 7, his wingman 6. The Japanese lost 346 carrier aircraft and 50 land-based planes, the Americans lost 30. Pilots dubbed it a turkey shoot for the Zero's helplessness. At Leyte Gulf on October 24, 1944, McCampbell set a record, downing 9 aircraft in 90 minutes, his 7 Hellcats routing 60 Japanese planes without loss. The psychological toll was catastrophic. Surviving Japanese pilots developed Hellcat psychosis, a term for their dread of the invincible fighter. By 1945, training was cut to 40 to 50 hours for naval pilots and 60 to 70 for Army pilots, with kamikaze pilots getting just 7 days. During the Okinawa campaign, Hellcats flew 38,038 sorties, claiming 2,351 victories against 249 losses, a 9.5 to 1 ratio, and stopped 80% of kamikaze attacks. Upgrades like water injection, boosting power to 2,200 horsepower, and K-14 computing gunsights made the Hellcat deadlier still. By war's end, the Hellcat had destroyed 5,223 enemy aircraft, losing only 270 in air combat, a 19.3 to 1 kill ratio. It produced 305 Navy aces and accounted for 75% of naval air victories. Japan's 18,000 naval aviators were reduced to fewer than 100 combat-capable pilots by August 1945. The kamikaze program, born of desperation, admitted the Zero's defeat. Vice Admiral Takajiro Onishi calculated a Zero's conventional attack had near-zero success against Hellcats, but a kamikaze strike had a 30% chance of hitting. Hiroyoshi Nishizawa, Japan's greatest ace, escorted the first kamikaze mission, claiming 2 Hellcats before dying the next day in a transport shot down by Hellcats. On August 15, 1945, as Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender, the last aerial victory of the war saw Ensign Clarence moor down a Japanese dive bomber unaware of the ceasefire. At Atsugi Airfield, 12 Hellcats from USS Yorktown landed post-surrender, their casual aerobatics stunning Japanese onlookers. Lieutenant Robert Vasu, an ace with 19 kills, demonstrated the Hellcat's power, stressing it to 13 GS without breaking. Japanese engineers later studied captured Hellcats, marveling at the Pratt & Whitney engine's 2,834 interchangeable parts compared to the Zero's hand-fitted components. Professor Jiro Horikoshi, Zero's designer, admitted, "We built a sword for 1941, they built a system for 1945. The Hellcat's production was a weapon itself. Grumman's Bethpage factory churned out 12,275 Hellcats in 30 months, one every 60 minutes, while Japan managed 5,100 fighters in 1944 against America's 35,000. The Hellcat transformed carriers into impregnable fortresses, enabling bold offensives. It also clashed with Japan's samurai ethos, prioritizing individual valor, against America's systematic efficiency and pilot preservation. At a 1962 symposium, Captain David McCampbell declared, "The Hellcat won the Pacific Air War." Saburo Sakai countered, "The Zero was a superior fighter, but the Hellcat was a superior weapon system. We brought swords to a gunfight." The Hellcat's legacy is in its numbers: 19 to 1 kill ratio, 12,275 produced, 5,000 American pilots trained, and Japan's Air Force obliterated. Admiral Jizaburo Ozawa admitted, "We laughed at the Hellcat because we didn't see it was a civilization's approach to war." In his final interview in 2000, Sakai reflected, "The Zero made Japan great, the Hellcat showed we were just men with outdated weapons facing the future. Every surviving pilot lives because a Hellcat pilot spared them." The Hellcat didn't just defeat the Zero, it dismantled a philosophy, proving that in modern war, systems triumph over warriors. Discover more about the Hellcat's legacy, share your perspectives in the comments, and join us by subscribing for additional untold chapters of history's legendary battles. Thanks for watching.